In this video, I'm going to be doing a full food pantry tour as well as a tour of what we have stored in our root cellar and in the freezers. So this is a full tour, all of our garden produce from 2024 and how it's going to be getting us into 2025. So this is our first year in our new house where we are storing all of our produce and we do not have the ample storage that we did last year. So I'm going to be giving you a breakdown in this video of how we did end up storing quite a bit of food in this room, but we're also going to be going over to the root cellar and I will give you a peek inside the freezers as well to see what we have stored up to get us started with 2025.
I wanted to stop right here to put in a few pictures of the food storage space that we used to have at our old house. These are all pictures from the old house, and you can see we had plenty of room to store stuff. Now, when we moved into this new house, we thought that we did not have enough room at all, and originally we did not. You will see that this pantry is tight and we have it packed to the brims, but now that we have the root cellar, we have set up a much better food storage situation than we had at the old house. Anyways, back to the video.
It is December right now, and at this point, I finally feel like I have most of my canning finally done. It has taken a long time to get to this point, and I want to show you what we have this year. So to get us started, I'll just give you a little look at this room. It is a tight pantry in here, and we have it pretty well stocked at this point. So let me give you a little look around. So here is a look around the pantry. There are a couple of cabinets, some overhead storage where I like to store all of our canning boxes because once we empty the jars, we need somewhere to put the jars. A little bit more storage over here. We have eggs. At this point, eggs are in buckets on the ground. Normally, they sit on this shelf when we don't have all of the produce in here. Over here, we have various squash. So I guess I'll start with that. So we have spaghetti squash in this one. Down here as well. It's another thing of spaghetti squash. More spaghetti squash. Holy moly, we need to get on eating some spaghetti squash. Here we have some butternut squash that we picked immature, so I'm trying to eat through these ones first. You can see they're not totally the correct color. The flavor has been not as great as traditional butternut squash, but we're still making sure to use these. Up in this one, we have a mix of some squash. This one was actually gifted to us, so we're going to eat that one soon. These are called green kashaw striped squash, I think. Those are really good. They kind of taste like zucchini, which is going to be nice to have in the middle of winter. Down below them, I'm going to need to move some shelves. Down below them right here, we have some kabocha. And now that I'm looking at these, they have started to turn a little bit golden, which that is not what they should be doing. But I've heard that these get better as they sit here and age. So we will see. I don't know.
After filming this video, I decided we needed to try one of these kabocha squash for dinner that night, and they were holding up really well as far as their flavor and how firm they were. There were no rotten spots on them, and I just didn't know what to expect being this is our first year growing them, so we gave them a taste, and they were just as good as we had expected. Back to the video now.
Down below them right here, we have marigold squash. Let me get this one off so you can see. Okay, so over here we have marigold winter squash. We really like these. We've been growing them for a long time. If you've been following on our channel, you've heard us talk about them. They are good, nice orange flesh on the inside. And below them, let's see, what do we have? More marigolds. And that's also what this next bucket looks like too. And down below, we have our butternut squash that actually did mature all the way pretty much. So these will be really nice to have. And we have been using our farmer's market tubs to store these for the winter, and that's been really nice so far, so dual purpose for sure. Up here we have a couple of zucchinis. These are patty pan squash, and a couple zucchinis that are left over. We're going to get those used up pretty quickly here. This is actually a little thermometer that tells us the temperature inside this pantry. We make sure to keep the window shut, not let any extra light in. We keep the door closed all of the time, and there's no heat source in here, so it cools off pretty nicely. This is where we put our potatoes. Let me move the egg cartons. This is where we put our potatoes in the meantime when we bring them in from outside after they come in out of the root cellar. So this is just our stash to use in the house, and we just replenish that often. And right next to it, these are the few delicata squash that we have left for this winter, and they are really yummy. I wish we had more, but that's all we have this year. Let me get this put back together. Things are now put back together. I really do like that we have repurposed these tubs to use them in the growing season and now in the storage season. These are from Costco. I think they're like $7 and they are a really nice tub. The sides fold down so they collapse and they stack in a nice little compact pile. And then you can also leave them open. You can stack them. I staggered these just to create airflow and so we can see what's in there aside from looking at the labels that I made. But I really do like these tubs. These have been a great addition to our food storage and have made it possible to store all this food in this small space. Down here, I forgot to show you our onions. These are winter storage onions and they have been really nice to have. We made sure to cure these properly and we've been using them like crazy and it stays a nice temperature in here and we're storing them, we think, with okay other produce. So hopefully they keep for us all winter and we get to enjoy onions from the garden all the way up until June, maybe? That will be very nice this year. This is also kind of a very small amount of eggs. It is December right now. It's almost to Christmas, actually, and we are not getting many eggs a day. So I will show you how we are going to combat that so that we still have eggs to eat and maybe a couple to sell every now and again. So starting off real quick with the eggs, this year was our first year that we water glassed eggs. So here are some of our water glassed eggs. It's a preserving method that I was unaware of previously, so we've never done it. It's our first year doing it, but there are many reputable things about it on the internet that it is completely safe and that it will help us have eggs in the winter months. So I'm excited to be able to crack into these and try them. Since the chickens have already slowed down, we have a couple of these big mason jars of them full, as well as a food grade 5-gallon bucket of them. So I'm excited to tap into that later this winter. So let's get started on showing you what we have canned up for the year. Now, how I organize our pantry is the same way as I did at our previous house. If you watched that pantry tour, I kind of explained this, but I'm just going to explain it again for those of you who didn't. I organize our canned items by the year. So right here, it says that everything in here is from 2023. Everything down here, these are the ones that we want to make sure to use first. Some of these items are from 2020. So they are getting a bit older and we definitely want to make sure to check this area before we check the 2023 and then the 2024. And I have more 2024 over behind the camera that I'll show you towards the end. So let's start with the oldest stuff first. So we still have some pickled green beans from 2021. These are still pretty good. We will definitely make sure to eat these. We just now have pickles made with cucumbers and they are preferred in our family, so we haven't touched these. We will make sure to use them though. We have only 2 of them left in here, so that's pretty good actually. Next to this, we have some summer tomato jam from 2020. In 2020, we had a ton of tomatoes, and I don't know if we were selling yet. We probably weren't selling as many tomatoes as we should have, or maybe they had imperfections and we had to can them. So making jam was one of the ideas to not waste the tomatoes. And it sat on the shelf for this long because although my husband really does like spicy things, this is a spicy jam, he doesn't prefer going for this. We may have to think of a way to use this in a recipe because I do want to use it. We have quite a few in here, maybe 8 jars back there because I know how far back these go, but we're going to make sure to use them. Next, we have some applesauce. This is also from 2021. This stuff is really good. Look at the consistency of it. That is awesome for applesauce that you make yourself. And we'll make sure to use it. This kind I remember too is very sweet, this particular batch. And we don't have apple trees yet that are doing really well. So we value this and we'll make sure to use it. We've just had applesauce throughout the years and we honestly don't eat that much, which is why we have some of it that's so old. Next, we have pickled beets. 2021 pickled beets. These are delicious. I love these. This year, we finally made another batch of pickled beets because we were low and we had a surplus of beet this year that I had to do something with. So you will see in the 2024 cabinet, there are a ton of pickled beets. But the year that we made these, we made a mass amount. So I haven't needed to make them since. So that's why we have just a couple left. There are only 3 in there. from 2021. Next we have, let me make sure these are all the same, hot sauce, hot sauce, hot sauce. Oh, double X hot sauce, so that one's really hot. This is another way to use up extra tomatoes, and why not make hot sauce to put on your various foods? It doesn't get used as much because only my husband will use it. So we have a lot of hot sauce, and we haven't made hot sauce since 2021, and I don't know the next time we'll make it because there are so many other valuable ways to use tomatoes that the rest of the family prefer, so we'll see. Next, we are down to our 2022. So all of this stuff is the oldest stuff. Last year, in my food pantry tour, I made a goal of using more of our canned items and our winter squash, and we really met that goal. We did really well this year, always going to the pantry first before we went to the store or ate something fresh from the grocery store. We made sure to see what we had that we had worked so hard on and use it first. So we are down to 2022 stuff already. That was pretty quick. Right here, we only have 3 jars of pasta sauce. Pasta sauce is something we always use, and we need a lot of it. So having 3 jars from 2022, I'm glad that we have those because it meant making a couple less this year, but we still needed to make pasta sauce this year. Next, we have 6 jars of banana jam. These are in my last food pantry tour. We still have 6 left. It's just not something we go to. Often we have fresh bananas, so we don't think to come and get some banana jam to put on oatmeal or toast or peanut butter and jelly, things like that. We need to do this more. So we'll make sure to get these used up. We only have this in here because we lucked into a surplus of bananas one day, so we decided to make some banana jam. Next, we have 4 jars of 2022 rhubarb blueberry jam. This stuff is amazing. I have a video on my channel about how we make it. It's blueberries that we pick wild and rhubarb that we grow. Really good. There's no extra pectin in it, which I love. Look at the consistency of it. It's not even going to the side at all. So, love that stuff. We make it every year, but we still have some from 2022. Next, we have, I just counted 10 jars of apricot jam. This stuff is so good. It came from my parents' apricot trees back when they used to live in New Mexico. They do not have access to those trees anymore. Don't even know if those trees are actually alive anymore, but that's a different story. And I'm kind of savoring this stuff. It is really good. I really like all of the jams in oatmeal, and that's my preferred way to eat them. There's so many ways to eat them, even on like some French toast or some pancakes or something. That would be really good too. Only 10 jars left. Next, we have some pears. These pears were gifted to us, which, when we get something, we're going to make sure we really value it and use it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 10 jars of 2022 pears. I don't think I have pears anywhere else in our pantry, so we're down to just 10. The kids love these. I love these. The simple syrup water is good too as a substitute when I make oatmeal. I just kind of put the syrup water instead of regular water, and it's really yummy. So definitely value this, and we'll make sure to get these used up. And we made a huge batch the year we made these, which is why we still have some. So we're lucky we do. Down here, we are still on 2022. All of this is applesauce. There are maybe 24 jars in there, maybe 2 dozen jars. And this applesauce, there's 2 different batches, as you can clearly see how different those look. A nice golden one. I think these were made with a little bit more of a tart apple, so it just came out looking a little bit different. I grab one that's not completely full, which is not good for showing that one's not that full either, but we'll make sure to use these and savor these, and we just don't typically tend to go to them that much. That's why they're in here.
All right, so up from this lower cabinet, we have the upper, and this stuff is all 2023s, and it is pretty organized, so I'm just going to kind of go over it real quick. Up here, we have some tomato soup. This tomato soup is amazing. It is one of our favorites. We just only really eat it when we're sick. So we have, I would guess, about 18 jars in there. And I am stacking those on top of each other, which is not the best, but I just didn't have that much space. But they are on the edges of the lid, so hopefully it'll be fine. Over here we have some more pasta sauce. Always a nice staple to have. Down below we have more blueberry rhubarb jam. And this stuff has a lot more blueberries. You can see It is very different and does not stand up as well when it's missing a little bit of rhubarb, but really yummy. Over on this side is all of our salsa that we have left. Almost a dozen jars in there. Oh, not quite. So there are 10 jars in there of salsa from 2023. And then down here we have our venison left over from 2023 still. This stuff is amazing. Such a nice staple to have on hand. And we use it all the time when we forget to pull something out for dinner. So good. So glad we are pressure canning meat now. Next we have V8. And I attempted to make this as a way to use up the byproduct of other canning. It is not really our favorite. So we will just use it, we'll drink it, or we'll put it in cooking, might be the best way to use it. And I did do them all in jelly jars so that hopefully we would take it or my kids would take it and drink it like a drink because they do like drinking tomato juice or V8, but they just don't prefer how this stuff came out. All right, from 2023, we also have only 1 quart of green beans and 3 quarts of corn. That is all we're down to. So, as you saw before, we didn't see green beans or corn yet. So, we only have green beans and corn, a couple from 2023, and the rest is 2024.
So that is everything that wasn't made this year, which that's amazing. At the end of my food pantry tour last year, I had items that went back quite a ways, and this is awesome that everything forward is 2024. It's all the stuff that we have made this last year from either hunting or from growing ourselves. So let me take you into the 2024 section so you can see what we have ready to go for the winter. I opened the window just for this tour just to get some better lighting in here. I probably should have done it right away, but oh well, live and learn. So this is our 2024 side of our pantry. I haven't pointed it out yet, but I do label everything with what it is on the side, as well as the date. I talked about that. But in this shelf, I know we have watermelon jelly and we have blueberry rhubarb jam. So watermelon jelly. Look at this stuff. We did grow red watermelons this year and orange watermelons. This is beautiful. This makes me happy that we could grow this year. It was a first time for sure. And the only reason we grew watermelon successfully, and I'm talking big watermelon. I made a video on our channel to kind of show you about our watermelon efforts and how it was successful this year. Anyways, it was really awesome, and the only reason we could do it really is because of the greenhouse. That gave us a whole nother opportunity with growing some different things, and when we had all those watermelon, we actually had too many watermelon, but not quite enough to sell to make it worth it with our labor and our time and the water that went into it and everything. So one of the things we decided to do was can it and make watermelon jelly. I do like this. It is nice to have. It's just different. You know, watermelon jelly. I don't know that I've ever tried that before anywhere else. So I do like it. It's just a different flavor. This came out very sweet. Watermelon is a low pH, so I made sure to follow a recipe very explicitly, which called for a lot of sugar and a lot of pectin to make it shelf stable with the water bath canning method. And it is very sweet. So I will say that about it. But man, oh man, it's pretty and we grew it ourselves. So that's pretty cool. And we will definitely make sure to use it. My husband uses it all the time. His favorite peanut butter and jelly. He uses it all the time. So right next to that, we have our 2024 blueberry rhubarb jam from this year. This one has a ton of rhubarb in it, as you can kind of see. You can kind of see those rhubarb pieces in there. That is one thing I don't prefer about making rhubarb blueberry jam. I love the taste. I love all of that. But I don't like how you can see those tiny rhubarb pieces despite how much I grind them up and how small I cut them and how long I puree them. But the flavor is amazing. This year I don't. Let me see if I have any up there. No, I don't. This year there aren't that many. We only have 7 in here, so that'll have to just make it through the winter, and next year I will definitely go a lot more intense with picking blueberries and making our rhubarb blueberry jam. Down here, this next row, these are Pressure canned green beans. We love having these on hand. The kids love green bean casserole, and they kind of just like eating them out of the jar too. So these ones were a dragon tongue variety. They are purple, and then when you cook them, they turn this white color. That's why they look like this. And these are our green beans that we've been saving seed and growing for a long time. I've talked about them on the channel a lot. A very generous older neighbor gave these to us, and we make sure to value them and always can them and save the seeds so we can continue that tradition. And I already talked about the water glass eggs. Let me give you one more shot of those. Kind of interesting. We'll see how they end up being. I've heard great things about them. And here's a close-up. Inside this bucket is just eggs in there and the pickling lime and water that you need to water glass eggs. So we are done with the lower cupboard. I will go to the upper cupboard now. This is still all 2024 stuff. So remember how I said we have a ton of pickled beets? We do. We also grew these golden beets this year. So these are both pickled, just two different varieties of beets. Look how gorgeous these look. I think they're called Detroit golden beets, and the flavor on them is really sweet and yummy. These got huge, and we had an extreme mouse or vole problem eating our beets this year. When we take you down to the root cellar, you will see what I'm talking about. We still have some beets down there that have chew marks in them. But this variety, they didn't seem to eat that often, which was very nice, so we ended up getting a lot of those. So there are a ton in here. Probably 24 back in there. Up top here, more pickled beets. These are all golden ones on this side, maybe another dozen right here. And right here, these are canned beets. So pressure canned beets to eat just like regular beets without a vinegar brine. We have regular ones, and then we have some golden ones up top. Is that my only golden? Yeah, okay, I'll mirror it over. Okay, I'm gonna shift things around a little bit. I only have to lay one golden one. So there's about 8 jars in here of the regular beets to just have on a plate with some dip or something. That's how I like to have them. Next, we have some canned turnips. These are pressure canned as well. I made a video on these. They're not my favorite, honestly, but I'm not used to eating turnips. So if I get used to eating them, perhaps I will start to enjoy them more. But we only have about 7 jars up here of them, one batch in the pressure canner. I just wanted to try it out to find a way to preserve them since we ended up growing more turnips than I wanted to eat right then. Next, we have some salsa verde, and this stuff is really good. These are from tomatillos we grew this year, and the last time I made a food pantry tour, I talked about growing tomatillos and making salsa verde, and it was really sour and limey, and I didn't prefer it. This one I prefer. We roasted the tomatillos and some onions and pureed them really well, and it's been a nice addition. This jar's kind of dirty. It's been a nice addition to have in the pantry. We've already eaten a few of them, which I'm kind of bummed about. I think we only have 4 more in here. So that is something that is nice to have when you want to make green enchiladas. Right over here, I have a couple of vacuum sealed jars of herbs. So we have thyme, basil, there's some green onion tops, and then more green onions in the back, and a parsley. And I like how I left those whole. Hopefully they will have more flavor. Oh, and echinacea. Kept that in case I wanted to make a tea or something. And these, we vacuum sealed them, but I used old lids because I always want to recycle those lids. So they're old lids, but they're vacuum sealed and they're holding on nicely. If you don't know about vacuum sealing your dried goods, look into it because it is a really nice way to just make sure you keep all the freshness inside the jar. And I really like it. That's something that's kind of new to us. I should have been doing it for a long time. Up top here, we have canned corn, and I think we only have 16 up there. So that is not many jars of canned corn. It'll have to do. I would, in theory, like to make a lot more. And actually, next year, I will be making a lot more because I recently discovered electric pressure canners. I didn't know that was a thing, that you can put your jars in, put the right amount of water in, put the correct jiggler on, push a button, program it, walk away. It'll beep at you. You flip the valve to sealed, and you have pressure canned food. You don't have to sit and watch a jiggler and watch the propane stove. Or we did ours on a turkey burner outside this year, a pressure canner, like a traditional pressure canner. And it just takes a little bit more effort, in my opinion. I like to know how to do it the old school way, but the electric pressure canner is going to be amazing for canning next year. I'm really excited about it. And we would probably have more pressure canned food if I would have had it sooner. So next year is a new year, and I'm excited for that. Okay, we still have 2024 stuff. Let's go to the other side. Down here, we have the last of our 2024 items that have been canned up for the year. So this is mostly where we put our tomato-based products. As you can see, I didn't mention any in 2024 on the other side. So tomato-based stuff is here. Up here, I know it's labeled. We have enchilada sauce. I think we ended up with about 2 dozen of those this year. Salsa, I think we ended up with about 36 of those this year, so 3 dozen. And they look pretty good. I did our tomatoes differently this year, which helped a lot as far as the time it took to process them. Pretty much I froze all of them to get the water off of them, which was a completely different method that I hadn't done before, and I did like it. I will repeat that again next year, I think, and a lot of water does come off that way versus boiling it down or reducing it in the oven, which is what I had done in the past. Down here we have pasta sauce. I think there are only about 17 of them down there, but pasta sauce is something we will use, and I know we had some in the pantry earlier, so that's why I didn't make quite so many this year. Over here we have, I'm gonna keep going with tomato stuff, dehydrated tomatoes. These are really good, rehydrated, put on pizza, put in various cooking, lots of different ways. So I decided to make a lot of dehydrated tomatoes this year, and I think there's about 8 jars of them down here. Next, we have some chicken stock, and other various pressure canned foods are something I'm starting to really get into. I'm really excited about being able to pressure can more things to make them shelf stable that are a little bit more tricky to can or require a pressure canner, let's just say that. So we only have 3 quarts of chicken stock, and I plan to make a bunch more in the future and do pints and all sorts of amounts to have them for various recipes. That will be really nice. Down here we have some canned venison, and we only canned about 8 quarts this year. So here's canned venison. We made a video on our channel about how easy it is to can venison. It's even easier now that we have the electric pressure canner, but it's still easy with the traditional pressure canner. Definitely a staple. Definitely something easy to grab and go off the shelf on a night when, say, I forget to pull out dinner or my husband does, and we just have it ready to go. You'll see in a minute we have quite the freezer stash of venison, which is really important to us to have, but this is a really nice backup on a night we forget to thaw out things. Down here, we have relish. Now, you will see, you probably noticed we didn't have any pickles in this pantry. That's because our pickles are in the root cellar. So we're going to go down there soon. But the relish, we did water bath, and the lids have not had any issues with the seals. So we have a dozen jars of relish down here. That is really an awesome thing to have. I love having relish. Over here, we have some pinto beans. I'm starting to can just various other beans. These are store-bought pinto beans. Everything else, except for the banana jam, was not bought in a store. It was either gifted to us or we grew it. Pinto beans we did not grow this year, but I wanted to have some easy on hand to use when they are dried. I don't use them as much as when they're just ready to go. The kids really just like opening them and eating them cold out of the jar too. So I'm starting to do more pinto beans. There's only 4 of them down here right now because that pressure canner makes 5 at a time for the pint, and we already ate one. Over here, this is kind of an experiment, or I won't say experiment, but something new. It is pickled watermelon rind. So whenever we make our pickled beets, we use a certain brine that I thought would be good with the watermelon rind. And I'm getting used to it. I'm figuring out how to use it to make it the best as far as just how to use it. If people could leave in the comments, how do you use pickled watermelon rind? How do you eat it? Do you use it in recipes? Do you just eat it by itself? What do you do? How do you eat it? I would like to know because pickled watermelon rind is something new to me. I'm not from the South. Well, I'm not from the South where they grow a lot of watermelons anyways, and I never grew up eating watermelon rind, so I'd like to know more about that. So we have 8 jars of pickled watermelon rind down here that we need to figure out how to eat. Right here we have some freeze-dried eggs. Now last spring when we had a ton of eggs, We actually contacted some people who might watch this video, I don't know. But we contacted some people that we knew from the farmers market who, they do freeze drying, and we said, "Hey, can we split eggs with you and you freeze dry them, you keep half and we keep half. Does that sound okay?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure." So we freeze dried some eggs, or they freeze dried some eggs. We don't have a freeze dryer. It is something we should really probably invest in at this point on the farm, but we haven't done it yet because it's a big expense and I just haven't done it. So we have 2 jars of freeze dried eggs. And when you add water to these become just like regular scrambled eggs, which is pretty awesome. So these will also be nice to use in the winter whenever we don't have a ton of eggs coming in, as well as those water glassed eggs. Okay, so that is it for 2024 pantry inside the house. Now we have the root cellar still. I'm going to take you out there. We have the freezer still. I'm going to take you out there. But before I take you out there, I'm going to show you something that makes organizing the space a little bit easier for me. And it's not really a huge deal, but I'm going to show you. Up top here, something that we have done is we have places to put the jars after they come back from the kitchen, washed, after we use the various items, so that we can start collecting jars again. So we have a place for pints, or we have a place for wide mouth pints, wide mouth quarts, or this is wide mouth quarts, this is narrow mouth quarts, narrow mouth pints, and then these are jelly jars over here. And this just makes it a lot easier because once we're done getting a box full of 12, then I put it up top, up there, kind of where you saw the box storage, so that when we do go to can again, it's just nice and ready to go. I don't have to spend a lot of time sorting jars, and it just makes things a lot easier. In here, we also have all of our seeds. It stays nice and cool in here, which we're monitoring with the thermometer too. So we have all of our seed storage in here too, which is kind of a logical place to put it. Now, I didn't show you one cabinet inside this pantry because it is all store-bought items. I'll give you a peek inside of it real quick, but we're not going to spend too much time on it. This middle section is all store-bought items and just things that we really like to have a lot of on stock. We have extra coffee when it went on sale. We have crackers and dried cranberries and stuff like that. We have beans over here, dried ones in the back, couple jars in the front. Vinegar goes all the way back. I see 4 gallons of vinegar right there. There's a red one as well in the back. Fried onions. The kids like green bean casserole, like I mentioned earlier. Over here, there's a couple of items of just things to make other meals happen. Before we started making broth, I used to purchase broth, so there's a couple left. Some refried beans, some cream of mushroom soup, some random chili that we have in here, just things that we need to eat through. I don't really replenish a lot of these things. They're just kind of left over and we need to get through them. Down here, we have all of our various rices, some honey. Our bees are not producing honey right now, so we did have to buy some honey, unfortunately. We have some lemon juice that's nice for canning to have on hand. Over here are other things that we don't make. We actually don't make ketchup. So I have ketchup over here. I just haven't found a recipe I love that tastes like regular ketchup. Mayo is nice to have on hand. There's some barbecue, some oil back here, just other various things. Down here, we have some more stuff that's from the store. So I'm just going to go over it really quickly. We have a bunch of ramen and mac and cheese, just easy kid food, honestly. Stuff we probably shouldn't buy, but we have it. Definitely trying to get away from that. We have wild rice from Minnesota, which is really nice to have. Some easy rice meals in case we ever need that. Over here, kids snacky food, baking stuff. There's some like teas and medicines here. Down here, this one's a little bit better in my opinion. We have our flour. We always keep a giant tub of all-purpose flour. We do buy our flour in bulk. That is something I would like to do someday, is not buy flour. That'd be nice because we go through a lot of flour. Sugars, brown sugars, canning salt, powdered sugar. I put the sugar in this tub when we're using it. And those are just items that we need to kind of get all the recipes together. And, just in case we need a random quick meal, these are the backups in here. Okay, now that's officially it from this room. Let's take you outside to the root cellar next. Here we are at the root cellar. This root cellar is new to us. On our last pantry tour, I also talked about the fact that we were going to be moving, and I had no idea how we were going to store all of our food. And I mentioned the root cellar, and here it is. Here's the root cellar. I'm so excited it's in. We have a video on our channel if you want to see all about the build and the cost breakdown to get the root cellar all made, said and done. Pretty dark in there. Luckily, lights. Let me get us set up here. You hear that? Let me give you a closer listen. I have the mic right up next to it. Look at a beehive in here. I guess we'll start telling you about this part first. So every year that we've had bees, we have struggled to keep them alive in the winter. And down here, it stays about 43 degrees lately. We decided to put them in the root cellar. They are buzzing away in there. This is the longest we've been able to keep bees alive. In Montana, where we live, we did get a different kind of bee this year, which might be a factor, but the fact that they're buzzing around in there and doing something in there, that's awesome. They won't come out of the hive at this point. They don't come out of the hive till it's, I think, over 50 degrees. I will put it on the screen here if I'm incorrect about that estimate. But they'll just kind of stay in there and hopefully be able to live, which is awesome. And we'll be able to overwinter them. And then maybe we'll have honey in the future in our pantry, which will be great. So when I came into the root cellar, it was honestly warmer than it was outside when we were outside. So it's about 43 degrees in here, as I already said. We are monitoring that with a thermometer inside the house, which has been really nice. And let me show you what we have in the root cellar. Here's our battery system to keep our lights going, but right next to it over here, let's start. So right here we have carrots, and they have kind of started to sprout, some of them. They are in damp sand, and we just pulled one the other day and tried it. We also have carrots in the fridge, but let's see. That sounds pretty crispy. Look pretty good. So we are storing some carrots down here. I'll take that one in later. We have huckleberry gold potatoes and beets. Look at this huge beet. This thing is huge. And there are some of those bowl holes I was telling you about. See that right there? It's a little nibble, so we'll cut that part away when we eat it. So we have some beets in here. Huckleberry gold potatoes, 3 buckets of those. We've always stored our potatoes kind of piled up like this. I know a lot of people recommend not doing this, but this is what we've done. We've had success. These will become our seed potatoes next year, as well as eating on them all winter long. So for us, this works. I know there are other methods too, but we need shelving in here as well. You probably noticed that. Over here, I have some pinto gold potatoes. We do want to save enough of these to have seed potatoes for the future. And more pinto gold down there. So we'll make sure to save enough. They are kind of cool as far as their color goes. They have white spots on them, which is pretty cool. So we'll make sure to save enough of those. We have plenty for now. Right here I have some herbs that I purchased that we will plant. These are just flowers, but we're keeping them down here. Down the way we have some white potatoes, and we've been saving this white potato seed for a very long time. And we're just going to make sure to keep growing the same white potato. We like them. They do well for us. We don't know the variety name, though. That's happy. That was not worth it, because below, we just have more white potato. I didn't know it was down there, but white potatoes, pinto gold, huckleberry gold, that's what we've got through so far. And up here is what we have left of our garlic that we harvested this year. We planted about 3 raised beds of these, and this is one of the only things we're really growing in raised beds, but our ground does get really hard to dig, so I wanted to keep garlic in the raised beds. But look at some of these bulbs. They are impressive. It's our first year ever growing garlic, and it was really successful. This one will probably take into sooner. Looks like it's going to start to maybe go bad, but some of them look like they're holding up really well. I really do like having this. I don't know why growing garlic makes me so happy. I'll just finish out the potatoes. These are red potatoes. We've been growing these red potatoes for a very long time. They do really well in our environment. We don't know what they're called. We just save the potatoes every year. This is a mixed. Hey, our buckets are mixed. That makes me a little bit grumpy, but it's fine. These are Harvest Moon potatoes. No, they're not. This is why you should label stuff. These are Huckleberry Gold potatoes. The other purple potatoes that I showed you earlier, the 3 5-gallon buckets that are much smaller, those are Harvest Moon potatoes. These are our Huckleberry Golds. They're considerably bigger. We planted these in preferable soil, so they did get bigger. And this is why I should always label stuff. Both of the varieties we want to save. The Huckleberry Gold have done really well for us the past 2 seasons. They get nice and big. They have a nice creamy inside. The Harvest Moon are new to us. The first time I tried a Harvest Moon, I thought it was amazing, and we decided to get more to grow them because I tried them without growing them ourselves. We purchased those and then kind of went from there. So I want to save enough of both varieties to end up growing them again in the future. Now, I know I already said we have some red potatoes. This potato honestly should be in here, but it's not. It's a little messy. So what I'm gathering is anything on this side of the room is a Huckleberry Gold. The ones on the other side of the room are Harvest Moon. Oh well, mistakes happen. Over here, we have more of our red potatoes that I was talking about that we always make sure to save and grow more of them. And they're just a good standard potato. The 3 baskets that are right here, these are our sweet potatoes. This year we grew 5 big buckets with sweet potatoes inside the greenhouse, and they did pretty well. We have some pretty good sweet potatoes, and this is a nice space to finish the curing process. We already cured them with the humidity that they need for about 2 weeks that sweet potatoes need just to make them sweet. But my whole goal with growing sweet potatoes is to overwinter them and make slips from them so we can grow sweet potatoes in the future. This is like a really long-term goal because every time I try to get the sweet potato slips sent to us in the mail, they don't show up till about June. And by then, they're just too far behind to really get nice and big and produce a lot in our growing season. So that's what this is about. We are eating, especially the smaller ones, but I'm saving at least one nice big one from these 2 varieties, Georgia Jet and Beauregard, to do next year and make our own plants. Right here, this random little thing, this is an artichoke plant. We have another one over here. We're just trying to overwinter them. It's kind of an experiment to see if it'll work. Every year we start new artichoke seeds and they produce flowers. The first year it's a special variety. I've talked about it a lot on our channel, but we're trying to overwinter them in the root cellar since now we have this space, which is pretty cool. Behind me here, we have all of our pickles and all of our banana peppers. Those look gorgeous. And all of my husband's pickled jalapenos. He loves these things. Now, the reason our pickles are the only things down here is because we choose to not water bath our pickles because we want them super crispy and crunchy, and that's just the recipe we've always done, and normally it works out fine. Now, in the past, we always stored our pickles in our basement at our old house where it stayed pretty cool. In that pantry I just showed you, it does not stay cool in the summer. So this summer we were making pickles. We would put them in the pantry, and then a couple days later, a couple wouldn't be sealed, and it was very frustrating. We lost maybe a dozen jars of pickles just because it wasn't cold enough in the room. And since moving them down here, we have lost a couple jars, but not many, which has been really nice that we have been able to solve that by keeping them in a cooler space so that we can enjoy them. We love having these pickles. They are so nice to have. And honestly, this might not be, I'm covering some, this might not be enough for the whole year. So in the future, we'll make sure to keep this going where we put them down here. And the whole reason I found out that that was what was causing them to open is because one day I went and got a jar of pickles, opened it up, and I felt it and I tasted them. They were fine, but they were really hot. And it kind of was like, oh man, they're opening because they're not in a cool environment. I mean, down here, it's kind of like a fridge. It's like keeping them in a fridge pretty much. So yeah, lesson learned. Okay, we have the freezers to check out, and then we are done with the pantry tour. Okay, I am really getting to the freezers, but real quick, I wanted to stop off and show you kimchi. Cucumber kimchi is something new that we made this year, and this has to be kept in a fridge or a cold room that's pretty cold. So I'm not quite comfortable putting it in the root cellar. We're just keeping it in this garage fridge for now. But there are a bunch of them, and this stuff is amazing. It was so good, and we're definitely going to repeat it in the future. We are here. It's our last step in this food tour, and a couple of freezers. We do have some other freezers out in a barn, but this is really where I rotate a lot of the venison every year. And I just wanted to give you a peek because being able to provide our own veggies and protein is really important. And it's important to know where your food comes from, in my opinion. So, venison is what we have most access to. So, I'm going to show you what we have in here. So, this freezer right here. Oh no. I found another jar of another bucket of tomatoes. You have to make something with these. Darn, I thought I had them all. Okay. Anyways, so in here, this is all of our 2024 venison. Let me show you. So it goes all the way down to the bottom. We mostly make venison burger or just steak, various steak cuts. And then we have some frozen green beans. I did make edamame this year. So we have some of those. We have onion top pesto over there and onion top hummus from last year. I actually need to get into getting those eaten. Over here we grew a lot of green chili. We froze a lot of green chili. I would like to learn how to can that or get into canning that in the future. And this freezer over here is not nearly as organized. This is our use first freezer. So we have some goose in the bottom. Everything below this down there is all venison.
This is all some fat that we got from a local butcher that we've been feeding to our chickens, and they have really been liking it. We have some green beans, some goose. Let me get this moved so that we can see what's below. Okay, I'm down below all of the excess stuff that gets piled on top, and this is all of our 2023 elk and deer, all of our venison down here, and we are eating through this first. And then we have breakfast sausage down here, which is really yummy, all in this basket. That is amazing. We do that about every other year. So this year we did not make breakfast sausage, but last year we did, and we still have enough to last us. This is catfish. Catfish is something my husband really likes going and doing and getting, and so does my dad. So they have gotten more into that recently. We have a couple of items that were gifted to us that are from, well, this one's from 24. I believe that one is too. But yeah, that's what is in this freezer. Every year I make sure to go through our freezers and rotate, and I get everything in a freezer and clear a freezer completely out so we can start stockpiling it with 2024 stuff or whatever the current year is. And that is a system that I really need to do. Otherwise, it kind of turns into the jumbled mess you saw on the top of the freezer. And I bet a lot of other people can probably relate to that.
And that is it for this video. Thank you so much for checking it out. Catch us on the next one, and it looks like I have some more canning to do.